Hi, my name's Charlotte Davis. I am a director of Fit to Learn CIC. I help people get to the point where they can use all their senses and motor skills to think coherently. Back in December 2024, I was out in Beijing at Beihang University explaining to their AI teams the skills I think all humans need in order to do well in an AI world. Today, we're hearing news from the States that the scores for their students are just plummeting. We are hearing in the UK that people are often leaving school with skills so low that they're struggling to get jobs, or they are very anxious and they can't go into the workplace. We are hearing about very large numbers of people who are off sick very long term. And I want us to think about the whole population, how we need to skill up to be fit for an AI world. And at the moment, there are some pretty fundamental problems in every nation across the world, but Britain is the sick man of Europe and America is even worse. So let's go and have a look at what's happening with the world and find ways of making things better. I got into this because many years ago, 20 years in fact ago, my son was 6 years old, and we had been advised by our hospital to eye patch his good eye to try and encourage his lazy eye to operate. What no one had told me at the time was the work done by Hudel and Weisel and their experiments in the 1960s, and that if you patch an eye, you risk cutting off links from eye to brain. At 6 years old, my son could not recognize his friends, and I realized his vision was much worse at 6 than it had been when he was 3. It was so bad, it was impacting on his motor skills development, and he was forgetting he had a left side entirely. And he was very frightened when he was away from me, and things were getting worse, not better. So I had to go out and find a solution. And sure enough, I managed to find my current co-director, Darlene Smith, and she showed me how to reopen pathways from eye to brain. And we did quite a lot of work with motor skills to reconnect the motor skills with the eyes and the brain so that my son knew where his body was. It affected his confidence quite dramatically, but by 12, things were pretty good and he took off. And it then became obvious that his friends had also got gaps in their development, but nobody had kind of noticed them. My son's gone on to be very successful, and I'm afraid I have a blurred picture here because he is successful in his own right, and he doesn't want to be associated with that struggling 6-year-old. And he's been successful. He can visually process, he can auditorily process, he can process using his motor skills. Also on the screen is an old friend who died this time last year. He died again because he had been eye patched. Because he had been eye patched as a child, he never got both eyes working together. He was quite stubborn by the time I understood vision, and there's no way he's going to take my advice. But it meant he was always curled up, always struggling to read. And that meant that his posture and his stomach were all in the wrong place, and that he was subject to extreme acid reflux, which eventually triggered esophageal cancer, which eventually killed him. And the reason I presented both case studies at the university was because they had known the professor as a professor at their university, as well as in being a UK professor. He was one of the top 3 people in artificial intelligence in the world. And he died probably 20 years before he should have, because he'd been eye patched as a child. And so both eyes did not work properly, and we've got problems with all sorts of other aspects of development caused by that. So it's really important that we understand basic development in people. As a parent and a senior teacher, I really wanted to share my understanding. Once I sorted my son out, gee, I wanted to tell everyone. No one wanted to know. Quite seriously, there's no way I can communicate with the National Health Service. There is no way I could communicate as a senior teacher, and in fact, it caused me to be constructively dismissed from a job because people didn't want to know. They wanted to do the coping strategy, they wanted to get the exam grades. They were not interested in the long term health of the child, of their colleagues. And when I go into schools now, when I go into organizations, I can see people with problems with their posture, with their vision, with their sound processing. It's going to cause them long term anxiety, which will affect their overall health. It also affects their basic cognitive skills. And we need everybody to be skilled up so everybody can work fully with all their senses. So just want you to have a think about it. Look at the people around you. Are people upright? Are they speaking clearly and confidently? Are they using both eyes? Or is there a problem? Have a think about it. We're going to do a few more videos going through my presentation from Beijing. Thank you for listening. If you want anything, these are my contact details.